Well, welcome to another video on business startup tips from Hillingdon Chamber of Commerce. Today we're going to be chatting about business banking and business plans. Our guest today is Liam Burcombe. Hi Liam, how are you today?
Hi there, Steve. Yes, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Thanks for inviting me along.
And you're local director at MetroBank in Uxbridge. First of all, perhaps give us an idea of what your role covers there. What do you do day to day at MetroBank?
So essentially my role is to lead a team of 20 colleagues in the Uxbridge store to give the best service possible to our customers, be that personal, be that business. Alongside that, I connect different arms of the bank, our commercial teams, our finance arms, to our customers, again, to make sure we're supporting them as best as possible, and also ensuring we're supporting our community.
So in these videos, we're trying to help anyone who's got an idea for a business and would love to run their own business. Can you give us some pointers on what services a bank can provide for a startup business? And when you're comparing banks, what sort of things should we look out for?
So for me, I think the most important thing is for a customer or for an individual that's setting up their startup business is work out what's actually going to be important to them. And you know, whether that's costing, whether that's price, and actually in most cases it's about building a relationship with your bank, and having a relationship manager that's there and available to support you where possible. When you're starting up a business, you may be able to identify problems. You may be able to identify that actually you're going to have a cash flow issue. You aren't being paid quite as quickly as you thought you would be. And really, for me, I think the most important thing is actually having someone that you can speak to about that. That could be an accountant, but also it could be your relationship manager at the bank. And in most cases, actually, that's kind of like your first point of call, being able to speak to someone.
And would not all banks have relationship managers? Is that only certain banks that have that?
So several banks will have relationship managers, but actually mostly it's dependent on your turnover, your level of turnover as to whether you get a relationship manager. At MetroBank, we do have relationship managers no matter what the size are. In Uxbridge, we have two guys, Robert Pounds and Tam Vircoli. But yeah, it's very much dependent on who you go to bank with and the size of turnover.
So what sort of things should we look for in terms of services that the bank are providing? Things like links to accountancy software, for example. Is that a useful service? Yeah,
so first of all, you really need to ensure that you are running your business through a business account and not a personal account where possible. Right. Mainly to kind of help separate both your personal income and your business income. That makes it much easier when reviewing, and when reviewing your accounts, but also it's the additional business services that you can get from that. Different services you can get are the accountancy software, and a direct link into that. Most banks do directly link into a variety of platforms. That could be Xero, it could be ClearBooks, it could even be Sage. So really it's about working out which platform you want to use. In most cases, if you have an accountant, then actually they may have a preferred platform that they want you to use. Yeah. So that kind of makes your decision a little bit easier. Other services, realistically, you're looking at business lending. So it could be a business loan, a business credit card, business overdrafts. You could also look at invoice finance and asset finance solutions. Again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying though about having that relationship manager there to help you identify the problem, but most importantly, help you identify the solution as well. Yeah. And actually what's going to be the most cost effective for you in the long term.
Let's get on to business plans, because they're quite important, I suppose, when you're starting a business. I assume you've seen quite a few business plans over the years. Would you say it's important for a startup business to write a business plan, even if they don't need startup capital?
Yes, essentially is the quick and simple answer to that. I've seen some pretty good business plans, and I've also seen some not so good business plans as well. But what I would say is it's incredibly important. It kind of gives you, it helps you remember what your key focus is when you started that business. So
Yeah.
3, 6, 9 months down the line, you can look back and think, okay, have I achieved what I wanted to achieve? Am I on track? What do I need to change here? Have I lost what my original vision was? And that is very dependent on the service or the product that you're providing. But personally, I think it's extremely important to have that business plan. Again, plans need to be flexible.
Yeah.
So they can change, but ultimately, yeah, very important.
Have you seen some business plans where you thought, yep, this is definitely the next Uber, or this is definitely the next £1 million business?
I have seen a couple where I've really actually believed that they're gonna grow, move on to do some pretty amazing things. But although some of these firms may have seemed like they appeared overnight,
yeah,
a lot of work goes into them as a startup. A lot of work goes into them. It'll be a lot of background work, and although it may a switch may suddenly be flipped,
yeah,
actually, it takes time to build your profile, to build your organisation, and to kind of give yourself that brand.
Yeah. So what are the basics of a business plan? What should we include in a business plan?
So first of all, I would be saying that you kind of need to flesh out your idea, your service.
Yeah.
Say exactly what it is you do, what it is you're going to provide. Go into a lot of detail about that, and also about yourself. Because if I as a business manager or a bank director am looking at your business plan, ultimately it's going to be very much about you. You're the difference maker here, and it's important to remember that people do business with people.
Yeah.
Okay. So as good as your service or your product may be, people will buy into you as an individual.
Yeah.
So tell us about your background, what makes you different, what makes you the right person, or you and your business partners the right people to be running this business. Market research, especially important. I would want to know kind of what's your competition out there. Is it local? Is it national? Who do you see as wanting to take business from? Where's your target markets? And this kind of leads on to the next part, which is your advertising.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, I suppose that leads into growth plans. But think about where you want to be in 2, 3, 5 years time, and then you can think, okay, so how am I going to get there? Okay, and quite often banks can then look at that support. But I will go back to saying, you are what makes the difference.
Yeah. They sometimes say, don't they, to write the press release of a business sort of 2 years down the line sort of first, and then you can almost see it in your mind as a sort of goal to get there.
Absolutely. It's all about visualizing what and where you want your business to be.
Yeah.
If you think about that daily and weekly, or you have that business plan to return to, you've got that vision.
Yeah.
Again, I mentioned before, a business plan does need to be flexible. You may not be able to achieve those goals in the time periods you've set aside.
Yeah.
But if you have them there, you've kind of got something to work to. Another important factor that I would definitely say needs to be in each business plan would be a cash flow forecast. And I wouldn't be afraid to get any sort of professional help with these. You could go onto some websites that actually would be able to provide basic cash flow forecast templates.
Yeah.
But actually, if you have an accountant, or even if you don't have an accountant but speak to an accountant, this is saying that they'd be able to support you with. You want to be very realistic on some of the figures that you're kind of putting together, which isn't saying that you always do see.
No.
But for example, the variable figures like sales, think about how you're actually going to reach the figure that you're putting down.
Yeah.
And if you work on an expectation, actually it'll be extremely low to begin with, and actually this is your lowest possible estimate of what you ever think you would do. That's the ideal to work from.
Yeah.
That's the ideal to work from, because it can only improve from there. If you set your plans on actually, this is the lowest figure I would expect to make possible, then actually, if you make more than that, you're putting yourself in an even stronger position to actually reach that 2 or 3 year goal in a quicker time.
And I suppose the cash flow forecast, it can be a live thing, can't it? Once your business is running, you can start plopping in the actual figures and
Yeah.
seeing, are we doing better than we thought we would be doing, or are we doing worse, and what can we adjust if necessary?
Absolutely. And it can be a running tally, really. And actually, you know what, it's something that you should be reverting to and monitoring pretty closely. Okay. Yeah. You don't necessarily want to be alarmed if you don't hit those daily, maybe even weekly figures. But it's something for you to kind of rely on, move back to, and think, because if you've got that cash flow forecast there, actually what it's going to do is kind of help you look into the future and understand where you may have issues or where you may need to actually invest in your business.
Yeah.
It could be another individual to kind of work alongside you or for you. It could be that actually you need to invest in better technology. It could be that alongside having that other individual to work for you, you need to get a van so that they can go and do some of the jobs that they need to do.
Yeah.
And again, this is where it's quite helpful to have that cash flow forecast, to have that business plan, because you'll be able to monitor that, you'll be able to check into it, and you'll be able to reach out to your bank in good time to see how they can support you.
And how do you look at things like salaries in the early stages of a business? If you see somebody with a cash flow forecast and they're taking out salaries already in the early months, how do you look at that? Should people be really lean and try and live on, bread and water?
Not necessarily, and ultimately we all have our own personal financial commitments that we need to make. And as you're starting up your business, that doesn't mean they're suddenly going to turn to zero. No. You need to make sure that you do have the funds there to meet those commitments. What we would be looking at is essentially that you are making those commitments in the first place. Yeah. The bigger question is if you're taking more and more out of the business. So if there was 7,000 to be taken in one given month and you took that 7,000, you didn't need it for your personal financial commitments and you could have invested that into the business.
Yeah.
That's kind of a different question and answer altogether, really.
Yeah.
But again, it's each individual down to their own.
I suppose one of the good things about having the personal advisor at the bank is to answer questions like, I need a van. Should I buy the van? Should I lease the van? It's all about cash flow, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Absolutely. And, like I mentioned, we do have those relationship managers available at MetroBank, but it is very easy for them to identify kind of what the most cost-effective solution may be, and how you can get support. It may be a case that actually a hire purchase agreement is what's right for you, because you're going to want that van and keep that van for the next 10 years, or ideally keep that van for the next 10 years, should I say. Yeah,
and I guess you've probably got links into local business as well, all the different services in the local area, so you've probably got links with people who sell vans. So again, it's another point of having this advisor, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Linking you into the local business scene.
And I think that's where you can really add value as well. If you're speaking to your relationship manager, they should be able to add value by saying, actually, maybe I know X, Y, and Z who can do this for you. Yeah. Maybe I know X accountant who will be able to provide this service. Why don't you have a quick word with them? Yeah. And actually, it's much easier, much preferential to kind of get that referral. And know that actually you're going to get someone that is very good at their job, is able to help you. Yeah.
So I've got an idea for a business and I need some startup capital to get it going. What are the different options for raising capital?
So initially, I'd be advising you to kind of review your existing resources. So your own savings, any money that you have set aside. I'd probably advise that you also approach friends and family. Yeah. To see how they can support your business too. There are government-backed loans and support schemes available. Yeah. That you can go to. I believe one of them actually is a rate of 6% as well. Yeah. There are essentially government support schemes out there, and obviously there is a traditional way of approaching your business bank. Okay. Again, extremely important for you to have a business account in order to apply for a business loan. But essentially, you could go to your business, to your business bank even.
Yeah.
To get that.
What's a typical, I'm not saying MetroBank's latest rate, but what's a typical rate for a business loan at the moment?
So generally I would say around 8 to 10%. Okay, but each bank will completely vary on what it wants to offer to its customers, and what it can offer to its customers. You have independent funders out there that will charge a higher rate, whereas high street lenders may be able to charge a lower rate. What tends to happen is that actually it's a reflection of risk, essentially.
Yeah. So as an example, say I apply to the bank for a loan of 25k to get my business off the ground. If I want to approach a bank for a loan, what will the bank need from me? And how does that all work?
So as a startup business, essentially, you would, when you visit a bank and you want to speak to that business manager, that relationship manager, we'd want to review your business plan and understand your strengths, but also your biggest challenges. It's really kind of getting under the bonnet, really. We want to really get to know your business, how you operate it, and it's again where the business plan is so important.
Yeah.
And actually it'll help you to kind of show what your biggest strengths are, which is generally you as an individual. The biggest struggle that there may be with a startup is actually that, that limited company, for example, is extremely new. It's only been around for a month. There is no financial history. There is no evidence of profitability. So actually, what I'd be doing if I'm meeting someone is saying, okay, well, tell me about you. What's your experiences? What's going to make this business successful, quite frankly? Yep. And if you can identify your own challenges and where you're going to see the issues, actually that makes a massive difference to us as a bank.
So you're not just using an automated system that says yes or no. There is a lot of sway from you personally to override the automated system. Yes,
and to be honest, I would say it's a blend of the two. Yeah. It is a blend of the two, because actually you do need to use the automated systems that are there, the credit check systems, because it will help us to identify any potential issues. But actually there is a lot of sway from our relationship managers. And we speak directly. I've got a great relationship, as do several of my team, with the people that sanction the deals, the yes, the no. And actually, if we fully believe in this deal, we'll do our utmost to kind of get it through.
Yeah.
We want to support a business where possible, but again, in so many cases, you need to also kind of put your own funds to invest in the business yourself, and generally speaking, it's good to see that too.
Yeah, you want to see a bit of risk on the part of the small business owner as well.
Well, yes, to an extent, it isn't always a risk. I wouldn't say it's always a risk, but actually, it's we're going to believe in your business. You could believe in it too.
Yeah.
And we're in it kind of together, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Liam, it's been amazing. If you want to contact you, by the way, what's the best email address or contact details to get hold of you?
I'd be more than happy to provide my details. Best email address to get a hold of me on is liam.burcombe@metrobank.plc.uk. If there's any startup businesses or even existing businesses that do want to speak with me, I'll be more than happy to help them where I can, and also kind of get my team in Uxbridge involved where possible.
Lovely. And there's also dog biscuits and the famous money machine that my kids love, putting their coins in the branch as well, don't forget.
Absolutely. You can come in at any time you want, 7 days a week, don't forget that.
Thanks, Liam. Thanks for joining us today. And there's loads more videos on the Chamber of Commerce website to take a look at. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.